Well, one of the things that happens is that as soon as you're not fertile, how men look at you completely changes. It's like you become invisible. And it's strange, but in some ways it also is liberating, because you can be, you know, a crazy old lady if you want. You know, you can stand on the street corners and say, "That's a stop sign there." You know, you know, it changes. You're like, they don't notice you. I think you become invisible on some level. And I think it's you know, it's something that's hardwired into humans, you know, that once you're not fertile, you somehow don't exist.
I think that it started for me earlier than that, actually, that feeling. And you're right, using the word invisible. I can't pinpoint it, but there is a point, especially I think about walking in New York City. And there's definitely a time when you know that you can still turn heads. I mean, even if you're not the most stunning woman, you just do, by being young or dressing a little provocatively, and at least from the construction workers. But you're noticed, even by other women, checking you out, what you're wearing. And then that starts to go away, because there's a very, there's gorgeous women in New York City. You know, they keep themselves beautiful and beautiful clothes, and they carry themselves, and the young professional coming up. And so you start to realize that the eyes are starting to go to them, and you start having less of a presence on the street. And that happens in your 30s. It doesn't even wait to menopause. That starts happening already, where you start feeling replaced. And that sense of having the key to the city, you're giving it to somebody else.
Well, I think it's particularly hard, though. As I said, I don't know that I always got those looks. If you grew up feeling, as much as everybody has their things they're picking themselves apart, but I think some women, my mother's in the theater, I think her looks were always really important to her. She got a lot of attention for her looks. That was her identity. That was never my identity. I never felt that about myself. I never, you know, for me, my greatest fear is losing my brain. My whole identity was my brain. So as much as I am concerned about the looks and all of that, it's not like, I never felt like I walked down the street and eyes turned, and that was very important to me. I was shy, I wore glasses. It wasn't my identity. Much easier, I think, to grow older with that than being, you know, like my mother, or, you know, or many women who maybe got a lot of attention for their looks. I never did.
It was like I had never been the pretty one. So I didn't have that whole thing. Yet I love looking good. I love feeling good. But when you have that thing, you are the pretty one. It's a real hard thing. I heard this woman on, it's harder for women who've been in that space. But I think, like you're saying, it's harder for all women who've lived by our youth. And our youth is our only thing. Because it does go away. And believe me, honey, this came very fast. 61, it's like, this time it is? Really?
But I think what interests me more is the whole perception, you know, group perception of what everybody thinks is young. You know, we're in this area, and every time you see somebody, they've had work done. So your perception that that's the way things are supposed to look. You know, as a group, people are pretty short-sighted and short-minded. They don't remember. Do you know that people didn't always look like this? And so I think if you could not fall into that and kind of go your own path is really good. I don't know if I can do it. I have no idea. I had a client that brought something. She wants to get a neck lift, and she brought a DVD of it. We were screaming. You know what I mean? We were like, "Oh my God, they look." So I said, "Would I do it?" I don't have $5,000. I don't have it, which is good.
I have never been one that has been easy in extreme social situations, like when you would walk into a bar when you were in college, right? And there'd be all these guys, and they'd turn around and look at you. And I always knew I was invisible because I didn't have the right hair. I wasn't blonde, and I didn't have straight hair, and, you know, I wasn't fashionable. And so I think I got over that really young because I realized that I was not what media made out to be gorgeous. I mean, you look at yourself in your mirror, sometimes you go, oh my God, whose face is that? Where did these come from? They're doing this. There's a dancer that I know who, when she turned 50, she's like, you know, I've never been able to do this before. And, you know, we're all vain. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I really don't. I won't take my vainness so far as to get Botox or anything like that, because I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
In terms of the Botox and that's an issue I've struggled with. How much am I going to do? How much am I not going to do? What am I comfortable with? What am I not comfortable with? So I've really struggled with having a tummy tuck. Now, a lot of people would look at me and say, you don't need one. But what's my self-image? What am I comfortable with? You know what I'm saying? I would love to have a tummy tuck. And then I go and I get some information about the type of surgery. It's major surgery, about what the recovery is, what's involved. And I'm weighing risk-reward, risk-reward. I am not doing a tummy tuck. I'm just going to have to live with what I have. It's going to have to be good enough, okay? Yet on the other hand, yeah, I was just thinking this morning, I'm going to call a little Botox, little Juvederm, I'm going.
I'm my mother's vain daughter, and in fact, I'm talking about it now. Paul thinks I've completely lost my mind, but I would. I think I would. I don't know if it came right down to it. I wouldn't be too afraid to do it, but more because I feel younger than I am, and I don't want to have. I don't like to look in the mirror and say, "Oh my God, you look terrible," but feel like a young person. I would like to have how I look and how I feel be a little bit more balanced when I get to that point, but I'm starting to feel like it's not in balance because I don't feel 50. You know, I feel 35. And so, I don't know, I wake up and the mornings I don't look good, and I just feel like I look older than I should look because I don't feel old.
That's true, because you know, I don't know what that is. I don't know if you feel that, but I still feel like I'm like only 30 or, you know? I think I look at someone and go, wow, they're older, and then I go, oh, I'm probably older than they are. So that reality still has a hard time setting in with me, that I really am older and probably look a lot older than I feel. So, yeah, that hurts when the guys don't look at you as much as they used to, and definitely doesn't feel as good.
And I've always been with men who are younger. So the thought that I go places and, you know, the guy that passed me doesn't even look twice anymore. It's disconcerting. It's also the reality, but I am the same as far as I really look men over, and if I were single, I would definitely be interested in a relationship again with another man, a sexual relationship. I would not marry again. But what you were addressing, that awareness, is definitely true for me. And it isn't any fun. It's not any fun.
It's hard because I felt attractive before, and you don't want to let go of that. You don't want to let go of that. And I think as women, especially in our society, there is a lot of importance on how people react to you. You know, in some senses, if I was isolated and by myself, I could be okay with myself. But you do, you know, and then when I've fluctuated in size, you see how people react to you differently. And it's probably similar when your hair, you know, I don't dye my hair. There is a little gray starting. And at first, I had the idea, well, I'm going to embrace it, and I want a shock of white like a skunk, and I'm going to embrace that. And now, then I found myself pulling them out. It's like, oh, there's a lot more there than I wanted to. And then I even put sun in to try to, well, maybe I'll just go blonder in that area. So I wasn't embracing it the way I thought I would.
Yeah, that's an interesting, the going gray thing. Yeah, I started going gray when I was like 28. I had no desire to go there, and I still don't have any desire to go there. I really admire the women who can just say, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to let it go. But I think you have to be really evolved to sort of let that happen. Excuse me.
I know I've never been beautiful. And for me, beauty is not a prime thing in life anyway. I am what I am. And I know that if I do attract somebody, it's not going to be at the first sight. I need to talk, and maybe by talking. So I've never been spoiled in that respect, you see. And I realize that people stand up to give their seat to me in the metro and that kind of thing. But you see, I don't have the French word for it is décalage. I don't have a time lapse between what I feel in my head and what I am actually. You hear people who say, oh, I still feel I'm 15 or 16. I'm 53 in my head, I'm 53 in my body. I have probably 58 or 59-year-old wrinkles around my eyes. No, but I mean, I don't care, frankly. I don't care.
So sometimes, I'll tell you, I have my moments where I wake up in the morning, and I guess we all do at this age. You have a bad day, you look in the mirror, and it's like, oh my God. So I kind of like do this routine where it's like, mirror, 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 mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And it's like in the back of my head, I hear this little voice saying, it's not you anymore, sorry. So it's like, I've started to really think about, that archetype, or that archetypal story about Snow White and her evil stepmother. And it's like at this age, being over the age of 50, I'm very conscious of having crossed that line where, okay, I was Snow White when I was a girl. Now, as a woman of a certain age, I am moving in the direction of becoming either the evil stepmother who hates the young and beautiful and nubile girls that she sees coming towards her, or becoming, the flip side of the evil stepmother, which is the wise crone, the wise woman who knows how to conjure healing energy and who understands the wisdom of going through each stage of life. I mean, like each stage of life offers a different perspective on life. This stage of life offers women special challenges.
There's a role for certain age. You become a wife at certain age. You become a mother of a young child at certain age. And the way you dress yourself should change accordingly in a way. And the ways you speak should change accordingly, because there are so many subtle ways of showing respect in the language of Japanese. When you get older, or when if you are a man or a woman, they speak in a different way. So the 20 years old girl, to some extent it's same in English, but 20 years young girls speak in a different way from 50 years grown-up woman, right? But the subtlety is more, I guess, clearly categorized in Japan. So you have to learn to behave like 40 when you become 40.
When I was going to turn 40 is when I went through a big traumatic experience. I was like, oh, I'm going to be 40. Well, when I turned 40, I was on a diet, lost a lot of weight, dyed my hair blonde, had my ears pierced, and 40 to, say, 42 were the best years of my life. They were absolutely the best years of my life. When I turned 50, didn't bother me too much. You know, that was okay. When I turned 60, that again bothered me because now, like, I'm a senior. 60, I'm going to be 63 in April. And mentally, I'm still 40, 39, 40. I don't want to get old. I'm a Toys R Us kid. That's what I always say. But you're reminded in different ways. You know, your body starts telling you, oh, you're not 39 or 40.
And then every summer it happens. I put on the pair of shorts. Now I pretty much have been the same size my whole life, with the exception of some pockets here and there. And I go to put on the shorts and I look, I'm like, whose legs are these? These don't belong to Stephanie Coleman. Where the hell did they come from? Where did they come from? You know, the flat stomach, but flabby stomach, okay? I mean, it just is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I look back and I'm like, I have no idea. I was always self-conscious about my body. It wasn't right, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. And when I look back on what it looked like, I'm like, oh God, I would do anything to have it. I would do anything to have it today. So it is difficult to watch things change right before your eyes. It just blows me away.
The other day when I was talking to my youngest daughter and I was complaining about myself for the umpteenth time, and I said, you know what, just enjoy your age right now. Just think about it every day, because my mother never told me that, or I never heard that advice. And I said, oh my God, celebrate your skin, celebrate your hair, celebrate anything you want, but just try and be in the moment with it, because suddenly it just goes away and you kind of like, you spend so much time grieving it and saying, oh my gosh. And then, you know, I'm an optimist by heart, so I just, by nature rather, so I always say, okay, there's a rainbow at the end of this for sure. There's definitely going to be a reward to get through this, but it's the hardest change ever. I didn't think I would have this difficult time. You know, just physiologically, mentally, with the hormones, I feel like it just can rule my day.
The body changing, and you know, you just feel kinda not really good and not really bad. You're just kind of like, bleh. You know, I watched that Oprah show on menopause that she focused on a couple of times, you know, about, I guess, the bioequivalent hormones and stuff like that, you know, and I've been meaning to go and get checked because I have a feeling that probably my estrogen and testosterone levels are just all over the board and stuff, and to see if I could get it better on keel, you know. But it was interesting listening to some of the women on the TV from all over the world kind of feeling like I do, and it dawned on me, and I was like, well, maybe this is the kind of the menopause factor.
About 3 years ago, I said to myself, "This is enough now. You know, I don't want to have that bleeding and you know, everything which is going on before the bleeding, and you know, your moods, and headaches and diarrhea and whatever you can have." So I'm sure that was one of the reasons why I went through menopause. And the second, I think, was that I handed my part of my sexuality over to my daughter, yeah, I think.
I'm 55 years old, and I'm struggling still, and I understand your struggle with this. I am still a young woman inside, but my body is not anymore a young woman, you know, and I've got arthritis. I've got arthritis in my hip. I've got it in my hand. I get out of breath easily, you know, and I don't exercise. I should, you know, I probably should be doing that. I have to watch everything I eat now. I can't just eat anything I want to anymore because I wear it. I end up wearing it. And the emotional upheaval is really difficult. That's more, I think, impacting me than the physical stuff. The fact that my kids are growing up and they're leaving and they're going off to college and I'm going to have the empty nest. I'm really struggling with that. And people say, friends say, oh, now you could, finish that book you started, and you can do traveling and do all the things that you want to do. It's like, well, yeah, I could do those things, and I probably will, but I'm still going to miss that part of my life that I've invested 22 years in. It's never over. I don't think we ever stop parenting, but the way I parent will change, and it's the unknown for me. It's kind of scary.
And because I've never known anything different, I have girlfriends and family members who love just a night out with their spouse and a drink. I don't know what that is like. I don't think, I'm trying to think, maybe in our entire 20 years we've done it 5 times maybe. So because we don't do that, I don't miss it. And I'd rather be with the kids, all 4 of us, together having a great dinner. And my husband feels the same way because we've never had it any different. So my biggest fear is my husband and I are still gonna, continue loving each other and wanting to be with each other once they're gone, or is it gonna be different? Are we all gonna fall apart?
It's not the necessarily taking care of them. It's just the relationship part where I guided them much more, and they listened to me. I think as they get more adult, they try and make their own decisions, and you can tell them what you think, but you have to do it in a gentle way because you can't inflict your opinion on them, and also they don't want to really hear everything you have to say. You have to be willing to let them make their own mistakes, which is just so hard. I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I find it very hard to let go and not be the mommy all the time.
I'm not like a real planner, and I didn't really think ahead. But if you were to ask me, I think I had just more of an idea that it would feel more like a unit still, and it doesn't. That's all. And I'm not sure if it's just because my husband's gone, which doesn't help, but or they just kids want their independence and you need to let them go. And I feel like I'm like you in that way of I don't think I'm supposed to parent them anymore, and my adult children. I don't think that I'm supposed to do that, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it. And I feel like a lot of times I want to start doing things because I want to do them, not because I feel like I'm supposed to do them anymore. So that's a new phase. That's very new for me.
Which, interestingly enough, was when I was starting to go through the change, the physical change. I started at 37, and I was finished by 40, by the time I was 40. So that's sort of, I just connected that was also what was going on, going into the change. So I also didn't want to be closeted anymore. I was tired of leading a double life, and I wanted to be out in the worst way. And when I finally did that, there was such a tremendous gush of relief. And I started to begin to realize who I really was and could be proud of myself, because I was always hard on myself because of living this double life. And it was very, very exciting and very empowering. And so I really didn't come into my life until I was in my 40s. Everything happened at once.
So by the time that menopause rolled around for me, in some ways it was actually a relief to be done with that. It's kind of no more birth control, no more worrying about all of that stuff. And besides, for the just the physical discomfort, I didn't have it that bad. And but what I did have was a lot of depression. I actually the hormonal change or whatever, it might have coincided, if I think about it, because I had it late, with my marriage breaking up.
Well, I think, I hear people saying that when you're married a really long time, that, you know, you go through many different marriages. So I think at this time, it requires that the marriage makes a shift. And that if the marriage doesn't make a shift, and I think this is true of all relationships, then the marriage will cease to exist. So the marriage needs to make shifts. It needs to make shifts at all different phases, from when we first marry to when we have children, to this age, till we get old. So I would say that it would cease to exist if it didn't make a shift, but if it made a shift, it would continue to exist. And there's a polarity about being married or not, because there's yourself and there's your family. And so if both those things, you hold both those things important, then you can't put one above the other. You can't stay only for family and leave for yourself, or stay for yourself or leave for your family. You have to find a way that it kind of works together. And that's, again, the balance again. So it's I'm not clear as how it will end, but I guess I guess I would say if it ceased to exist, I wouldn't probably get married again. I probably wouldn't do that.
Well, I had been talking to my husband since we've been married 9 days, that, you know, things weren't really right, and we really needed to address a few things, mostly the passion side of the relationship. And he kept saying he would address it, but he would never read a book or see a counselor with me or do anything. And at 18 years of marriage, I was working as a tennis pro against his wishes. That was really the end, because he never wanted me to work. And I finally said, I'm going to work. And I fell in love with somebody else. I was very available to fall in love. In fact, it was the man who then became my tennis partner. And we lived together for 2.5 years, and it was just so much love and passion. But that's why I left, and I left my 2 teenagers. So that was a big deal, but at the time I was so close to dying in the relationship that I didn't see how significant it would be for my children. I just had to get out.
And I find the most fascinating part of getting divorced are men and women wanting to know whose decision it was to get divorced. If I was the one being divorced, that meant something. If I was the one divorcing, that meant something. So that had a whole bit of implication and I was the one to divorce. So immediately that gave me a power image. Whereas if I was the one divorced, they would have thought of me, I really strongly feel, as a victim or somebody who just, what is Laura really like? We just don't, you never know what goes on behind closed doors, but there was a real fascination on who wanted the divorce. And I have a friend who's getting divorced. I said, get an answer ready, because you will be asked, or implied. People want to know whose decision it was.
Everybody's got these expectations that what things are going to be like. You have that picture perfect, little cottage in the country kind of thing, and how your life would be, and then real life happens, and it's like, wow, it's not like that. Wow, that's a slap in the face.
And then you get into the dating thing. What do men expect in terms of bodies, appearance, and it's, I don't have any answers.
And it was funny, I was talking to a friend yesterday. We were talking about relationships and the aging process, I think, because I was telling him about your project. And I said, when I got divorced, I was 39. I was 39 when I moved out, and 40, the divorce actually came through. And I had been in an unhappy relationship, and one where it was what I call involuntary celibacy, because sex was not possible. And through my most of my 30s was tough. And so when I got divorced, it was like, yeehaw, let's find a man. And I had a few short-term relationships, and then I had a longer-term relationship. But it's interesting, I don't know if it's everywhere or it's for whatever reason what I attracted or whatever, but there wasn't really good relationship material. now that, I would say, jumping ahead, now that I'm in my 50s, whether it's hormonal or it's life experience or whatever, I don't have that urgent need to have a man in my life. I mean, I like to feel like I'm open to that. But it's kind of a relief.
But one of the interesting things about being this age, relating directly back to what you were just saying about how it's so important for us to feel validated, have our sense of beauty and attractiveness validated through, how the opposite sex views us. Well, at this age, do you know that I have often been approached by women, heterosexual women of my own age, okay, who will come over to me and give me, it could be at an opening, a party, I could be out at Stop and Shop, grocery shopping. And they'll come over to me and it's like, hey, sister, I want to share with you that I think you've got great legs. And it's like, thank you. Or, hey, you're in great shape. I ran into this woman one day at a supermarket in Fairfield, and she said to me, she asked me actually how old I was, and I told her, and she said, well, that's quite admirable. At this age, I rate people's attractiveness by the firmness of their jawline, and you've got a great jawline. So I get it from the women my own age. So I feel as if in a curious way, at this age, it's like that's where you get your validation from other women who are going through the same thing, who see it. They see you doing it, looking good, and they're working on it too, and it's like, hey, we're in this together.
And I think it helps if you can talk about it and laugh about it. Everybody's thinking that they're the only ones, that are looking in the mirror and everything's sagging and the rings under the eyes and you're looking at the jowls. And, if you're on the same page with people, it diffuses it. It's like talking about anything at all. I think if you talk about it, it's not this great, horrible elephant sitting in, scary elephant in the center of the room.
Does anything really take it away? Does anything take away your age? No, you just have to go through it. There are certain things, it's like I tell the kids, you got to butch up. You just have to go through it and find your way through it.
It will be about how do you feel about yourself, your own integrity, and basically, bottom line is your own spirituality. That's what you're radiating out. How do I feel about who I am and the journey that I've been on?
And now with people living so much longer, to spend the second half of your life hating the way you look, what's that?
You just have to let it go and go on to the next thing of feeling more content with yourself. And so maybe you're not going to get the looks anymore, and maybe you're not going to have that same thing, but you're going to feel good and you're going to feel content with yourself. And if you can do that, I think that's huge.